everyone, and welcome to National Park Week celebration. I want to introduce myself. My name is Jackie Main, and I am the program manager here at the Washington County Senior Activity Center. And I would like to welcome you to a special PowerPoint presentation of the National Park Week celebration, April 18th through April 26th. I just want to let you know that Desiree Myers, who is our program assistant manager here at the Senior Center, put together this PowerPoint for you, and we want to thank you for participating. We had several of our Senior Center members send in photos and words about each photo, and we want to bring those to you today. So here we go. So our first slide that you're going to see is the Acadia National Park. This is in Maine, and it comes to us from Donna Mason. And Donna, who's also one of our instructors here at the Senior Center, and guess what she instructs? Painting. So the picture to your left you're going to see is the photo that she sent in, and the picture to the right is the painting that she drew from the photo. Yes, amazing, talented, very talented. So Donna Mason says, I chose it as my favorite because it's on the ocean, which is always my favorite location to take a vacation. The scenery there is gorgeous, and there are a lot of spots which gives me inspiration for paintings. And we can tell that was a very good inspiration right there. So let's go to our next slide. Our next slide is the Arches National Park in Utah. And this comes to us from one of our members. Her name is Kathy Schultz. And Kathy says, discover a landscape of contrasting colors, landforms, and textures unlike any other in the world. The park has over 2,000 natural stone arches, in addition to hundreds of soaring pinnacles, massive fins, and giant balanced rocks. This red rock wonderland will amaze you with its formations, refresh you with its trails, and inspire you with its sunsets. And this comes to us from Kathy Schultz. This is the Arches National Park in Utah. And our next slide comes to us from another instructor here. Her name is Ruth Ward. She does our Let's Get Growing class. Ruth sent in photos from Badlands National Park in South Dakota. So the Badlands, she says, its dramatic landscape spans layered rock formations, steep canyons, and towering spires. Bison, bighorn sheep, and prairie dogs inhabit its sprawling grasslands. We took a kid's toy plastic dinosaur with us on the trip, named it Reggie. He came along so he could visit his family, ha ha ha, as we toured the parks in the western part of the United States. You can see him on the top of the entrance. The other shot does no justice to the spectacular scenery and gorgeous blue skies. That is some beautiful photos. And I can see the dinosaur. Can you see the dinosaur? Okay, let's go to our next slide. Our next slide is the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park. And this is DC, Maryland, and West Virginia. And this comes to us from Paulie Ward. And I think a lot of people know Paulie Ward. If you come to our special events here at the Senior Center, you will know Paulie Ward because he is a phenomenal photographer who does our photography for us. So we want to get a shout out to Paulie. He sent us several more photos, so we'll take a look at those later on in the PowerPoint. So let's go to our next slide. And our next slide comes to us from one of our co-workers here. Her name is Kim Torciello, and Kim brings the photo from Devil's Tower National Monument, Wyoming. And Kim says, Devil's Tower is the first U.S. national monument. It was depicted in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And after watching that movie as a kid, I had always wanted to visit. I had the opportunity in 2015 while traveling out west, and I was not disappointed. The area is beautiful and is used by rock climbers and hikers. Wow, can you imagine climbing that rock? Wildlife is also bountiful, including an area that is inhabited by prairie dogs. It is also a religious site for the Plains Indians, and while walking around the base, you get the chance to see prayer cloths that are tied to trees during religious ceremonies. Wow, that is awesome. So thank you, Kim, for sending that in. So we want to go to our next slide, and our next slide is the Four Corners. And this was sent in by Mark Garland, and Mark is one of our members, and this is from New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado. So thank you, Mark, for sending that in. That is something awesome there, that photo. So we want to go to our next slide, and our next slide comes to us from Sue Stein, and Sue is also a co-worker here at the Commission on Aging. So Sue sent some fabulous photos from the Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. And Sue says, unique combination of geological color and erosional forms decorate a canyon that is 277 river miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and a mile deep. Wow. Grand Canyon overwhelms our senses through its immense size. So you'll see the Grand Canyon there, the photo there, and she also sent in a couple more photos that we could take a look at, and you can see how big the Grand Canyon is. That is amazing. Thank you, Sue, for sending that in to us. So our next slide we want to take a look at is our Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. Now this was given to us by Desiree Myers, who is the Assistant Program Manager here at the Senior Center. And Desiree says, I am typically a mountain person, so when my friend suggested we visit Great Sand Dunes National Park while in Colorado, I was a bit hesitant. But now looking back, I am so glad that I was able to visit these mountains of sand. It is beyond what I had imagined. And as you can see, wow, those photos are beautiful. Thank you, Desiree, for bringing that in and for making this wonderful PowerPoint for us. So our next slide comes to us from another co-worker here. Her name is Becky Hickman, and she just told me the name of this, so Monongahela. And this is the National Forest in West Virginia. And Becky says, my favorite because these are the mountains of home. How wonderful. And it is wonderful, wild and wonderful West Virginia. So we have pictures there of the beginning of the national park. And also she sent us some more photos of the national park. And it is gorgeous. Thank you, Becky, for those. So we'll go to our next slide, which is our Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park. And this is from Utah and Arizona border. And this is from Brian Bittennost. Thank you, Brian, for sending these in. And Brian says, for me, what differentiated this park from the others is the peacefulness and the serenity that I felt while visiting this park. The other parks had the same effect, but not as much as this one. And you can see how beautiful that photo is, and you can tell it is very peaceful there. Okay, and our next slide comes to us from Paul and Margie Geyerson, and they went to the park, Olympic National Park in Washington. And they said the park is very diverse, and the entire Olympic Peninsula has so many beautiful natural wonders to see. Great food too. I like that. I like food, so I'm a food person, so that's why I like that too. But this is wonderful photos, beautiful picture. Oh, gorgeous. Okay, so our next slide comes to us from Paulie Ward, and it's the Redwood National Park in California. And you can see how the trees are so tall. in the Redwood National Park. Okay, and we'll go to our next slide, which is the Saguaro National Park in Arizona. And I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly, but Saguaro National Park in Arizona, and this is from Paulie Ward too. So Paulie is a traveler. We love that about Paulie because he can bring us back some beautiful photos. So our next slide that we're going to show you is the Yosemite National Park in California, and it comes from another co-worker here, and that's Morgan Nicely. Morgan says, Yosemite is the first national park I remember visiting. Its beauty is unmatched from the valley floor to the waterfalls to the high mountains. Wow, that is some gorgeous photos right there. And then our last slide, I just want to give you a little bit of information. This was given to me by Desiree. She says, well, it's from George B. Hotzog Jr. He's the National Park Service Director from 1964 to 1972. And he said, the national park idea has been nurtured by each succeeding generation of Americans. Today, across our land, the national park system represents America at its best. Each park contributes to a deeper understanding of the history of the United States and our way of life, of the natural processes which have given form to our land, and to the enrichment of the environment in which we live. And I agree 100%. So thank you for joining me today about the national park. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad you can enjoy this presentation given to you today while you're, as Amy says, we're living in. So living in, these are the things we need to do is educate ourselves on our natural parks, and then once we're out, we can go visit those natural parks, take some beautiful photos, and then next year we might do this again, and you could send in your photo of your park. Thank you very much.